Well, we want to welcome back everybody to 2024, a new year, and that means a new chat with Stephanie Dobson, who is here. Stephanie is a collaborative lawyer, mediator, and educator with Hankett Divorce Law and Mediation, offices in Lloydminster and Edmonton. Stephanie, thank you for joining me, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, thanks, Stacey. Happy New Year to you too. And
Well,
to all our viewers.
Yes. And let's get right into it, Stephanie. We were talking about division of property, and it's something we want to continue. In this case, dealing with the Canada Pension Plan, which is not easy when you have to deal anything related to the government, obviously, and even more so going through divorce and separation. So let's talk about if the CPP can be shared when going through a separation or a divorce, Stephanie.
Yeah, Stacey, by default, yes, the Canada Pension Plan credits that were accumulated between by each spouse during the time that you live together can be split. What I recommend to all our viewers is to do if you just did an online search for CPP credit split divorce, the first hit that's going to come up is a really great information sheet from the government exactly about how this works. But let's talk about it in here. So each of you and your former spouse may have accumulated those CPP credits during the time that you were employed and living together. So in some of those years, one spouse may have accumulated more credits, and then in the other years, the other spouse may have accumulated more credits. So when a couple separates, there's an opportunity for spouses to have the credits that each of you accumulated during that time pooled together and then split equally. So let's give an example. So for each year of the eligible split, if one of you earned $10,000 in pensionable earnings, and then the other spouse earned $20,000 in pensionable earnings, the total pooled together is $30,000, and then split down the middle, you each have $15,000. So someone loses $5,000 and someone gains $5,000. So there's some technical requirements, of course, and there's always technical requirements. But if you have to have lived together with your former spouse for more than 12 consecutive months, you have to have been separated for more than 12 months. And if you're unmarried, living common law, you have to apply within 48 months of being separated.
Is it worth it, Stephanie, to split the CPP?
Well, whether it's worth it or not will depend on the credits that each of you have accumulated during your relationship. So and that's for each of those years, not in total. So a credit split will, of course, benefit the spouse who accumulated less credits over that period of time. Typically, will be of most benefit to the spouse who stayed out of the workforce for that period. So the more pensionable earnings that you had when you start receiving the CPP, the more your CPP check will be. So I recommend each spouse to go to their Service Canada account online or contact CPP directly to have that statement of contributions mailed to you so that you can have a sense of what you've accumulated.
How do former spouses cause that CPP split to happen, Stephanie?
Well, as with anything in the government, there's going to be an application form for it. So you have to fill out the form and send in some supporting documentation. So as I said, if you Google CPP credit split divorce online, there'll be that info sheet, and there's also that form that you can fill out. It's called ISP 1901 if anyone's looking for it.
Okay, and last question. What happens if people don't want to split those CPP credits with their former spouse? Because obviously you've dealt with us enough to know that could very well happen. So what are the options then?
Well, if you want to prevent your CPP credits from being split, it's important that you deal with this by way of agreement between the two of you. So there's some provinces in Canada that do permit former spouses and common law couples to waive their right, so to not have that CPP credit split done. But the only provinces in Canada right now which permit that waiver are Alberta, Saskatchewan, and BC. So that means that if you're outside of those provinces, then there's no legal authority to allow that waiver of the credit split. So if you're in those provinces, then that means that automatically that credit split will happen. Of course, most of our viewers are in Alberta or Saskatchewan. So if you don't want your Canada Pension Plan credit split, then you must do so by putting that into your separation agreement.
All right, Stephanie, lots of information once again, but thank you so much. It's always nice to have you break it down and simplify it a bit especially when it comes to all the technical things. So thanks again for joining us, Stephanie, and we'll be back next week.
Thanks, Stacey.